Today, see a demo of Tanium's new JumpGate product, providing just-in-time and just enough access to critical systems. Welcome back to Tanium Tech Talks. We are your hosts, Alex Miller.
And Ashley McGlone.
Today's shower thought. Remember that contractor you granted VPN and server access to last year, and now they're gone? Is their access still there? I know Ashley, that would never happen in your environment, right?
No, that's never happened. Never. No, never. Oh, well, last year at Converge, when I saw this announcement, we're going to show you today, it was literally one of those jaw dropping moments. And then this year we delivered. And so here, fresh off the presses to tell you all about it is Nat. Help us welcome Nat for a first time on the show. Please introduce yourself.
Hi there. My name is Nat Dunlap. Much as the guys have mentioned, I'm the lead product manager for our new product we're going to show you guys today. I'm excited to be here. Ashley said a year ago we announced this at Converge. I've only been at the company for a little over a year and a half. So and you could say my whole Tanium journey has been preparing me for this moment today.
That's absolutely fantastic. We're glad to have you here, Nat. Let's get started with the hard questions right away. Like, why? What is JumpGate? What's the backstory here? Was there a customer demand for it? What did we build today?
That is a great question and a wonderful place to start. Lots of people don't actually know this, but Tanium secretly had JumpGate internally this whole time. For a couple of years now, the internal product has been called Lockbox, and that is what was developed out of need because, like other companies, Tanium also needs a way to have secure access. So JumpGate evolved from an internal product. Ryan Andorfer, one of our amazing VPs, had mentioned to some customers this internal product, and we got a lot of enthusiastic responses of, can you build this? If you build this, we need this. So that is a little bit of where it came from, but lots of fun things to talk about today and how it benefits so much more outside of Tanium.
This is such a fun story because I've seen this happen in the industry a few times where companies invent their own tools to kind of do things. I mean, you think about open source libraries and things like that from coders and so forth, different companies, frameworks that people publish. But this is a tool that we built for our own purposes. And then customers are like, well, yeah, we would like that too. So it's a really fun story from that aspect. So you've probably been doing some private previews and early adopters. What have you heard from customers early on?
Appreciate that question. So we have done private preview, but we've actually started working with customers way before we even had any sort of development. So this went back to when I first started at Tanium last March is when I started talking to customers. A lot of the feedback at the beginning was, this is great. If you can actually build this and solve all of my problems, I will sign the dotted line today. We fast forward to Converge last year, so 1 year ago exactly. And we hosted different user research sessions. We met with a lot of customers, show them the few mocks and end-to-end demos that we had. A lot of the responses were actually telling us a lot of unique cases that we solved for them that we weren't aware of at first. And then on top of that, once we actually had them hands on keyboard testing out the product, their responses were anything from wanting to replace their current solutions, from CyberArk, which I know is a heavy name to say, to also saving them an entire development team over the last year to build the same exact product we are now offering them through Tanium. So it's been very fun feedback. If anything, the most we've gotten responses so far has been someone to say, my feedback is going to be very nitpicky, and that should just go to show what the team has built, because it truly has been an impressive delivery after 1 year of development.
Well, with feedback like that, I'm eager to see it. And what did you bring to show us today?
So today I do have a JumpGate up and ready for you guys to show what it's all about, what this new Tanium capability is, and walk you through a little bit of where someone would start brand new to how a power user would use it in their day-to-day job. Welcome to Tanium JumpGate. So this view here is where the module homepage would be. So Given the lead product manager, I do have wonderful JumpGate operator permissions, which in a different set of terminology means admin privileges. I also do have the permissions here today as the user. So I will be able to show you guys both from the admin perspective of how to set it up, but also how your typical support engineer would also use it on a day-to-day. The very first thing we always tell folks is JumpGate does not work without access policies. So in the module homepage, scroll down, lots of high level stuff popping out at you if you need some quick links. The one that we're going to use first is access policies. What exactly is the setup and why is it needed? So JumpGate is all about secure access. We remove standing privileges and we replace it with just in time and just enough. But if you talk to customers, everybody has a different definition on what just enough, just in time means. Every customer also has different environments, different users, different ways of how they set this up. So we needed to make something that would be flexible for our customers, regardless of which industry they work in. So we do have a couple of default policies already here for demo purposes, but I will walk us through how exactly do we set this up. So when you go to set JumpGate up, you go to access policies, you select the option to add. For this purposes here, we'll call this the Tech Talk demo. And for the description for Nat to access.
I'm just going to say right here, this is a different looking UI design from our developers with the little step-by-step across the top. That's a nice touch.
Yeah, absolutely. No, they've definitely worked on it. It's been very cleaned up.
I actually love that. There's, historically I've been at Tanium like 5 years. So historically there's been a lot of things that require step-by-step instructions, but you kind of have to get over the learning, you have to get the learning curve right. So this is fantastic.
That was the intent. We have an awesome UX lead. We wanted to make it very intuitive. And if maybe it's not too intuitive, we want to be able to walk you through it without you realizing it. For the creation of this access policy for our Tech Talk demo and for the description, I'll say demo purposes for Nat. But on top of that, now the way the access policies work is it evaluates who is requesting that access, to what they are requesting the access to, and if that requires an extra approval. So in this case, I'm going to select myself, Nat Dunlap, and I am the only user that will be impacted by this policy. For the purposes, so two different ways that our customers can use this. They can either build this out in a more manual setting, or they can actually just put it in the filter bar. We try to make this feel like the rest of Tanium. So let me go for computer name contains, we'll go for like if they're Windows. Yeah, that should be fine.
On the user side of things, I know people are going to be asking this. So we got who can access and what they can access. So on the who part, I'm assuming, could we use Tanium user groups that are defined there? Or if they have external Entra ID or Active Directory groups, can we leverage those other groups as well?
Great call out and great question. So on the previous side here, I'll just quickly go back. You can add user groups. But anything that is external at this moment is not leveraged. So what we're pulling in here is very much just from the Tanium ecosystem. So that's actually a great segue into some questions that our customers have had, which is, what if I want to bring people into Tanium just to use JumpGate and that's it? I don't want them to use anything else. So we wanted to help make this process easy. So any user that a customer brings into the Tanium world to use JumpGate, they can limit everything that they see and what they're able to touch by only giving them the Tanium JumpGate user role. That role is so narrowed and so scoped in their privileges that it's meant to be able to help make a customer feel comfortable bringing on 200 new users to the Tanium platform, knowing they can only access Tanium JumpGate. So while we, at the moment, don't pull in external ecosystem, we're pulling in just with what is within the Tanium console, and we're helping our customers keep their Tanium JumpGate users scoped to only JumpGate within the platform.
And I'm going to guess, based on the size of the customers that have done this, there's been some people probably doing some API work as well to automate some of that and for their own provisioning. That'd probably be a good way to manage it externally if you wanted to.
Yes. JumpGate, following a lot of the similar processes for our other modules, we are looking to make sure we have the appropriate public APIs so that our customers can help have this flow into their workflows with whichever integrations they may need or automate which processes they may need as well.
So we've got our users, and then we move on to our computers, which can be traditional computer groups we've already got defined, or we can, again, filter anything in Tanium.
Yes, and leveraging even sensors as well. So we wanted to make this fit with what customers are already using in the console or maybe how they scope their endpoints. So this is very simplistic, and I know some customers have it more complicated, but for this purposes, this will just be if the computer name contains win. In that case, there's two. So this gets us to our approvals page. So this here has a couple of different things to call out for our users. The first one is if you needed to require an approval, much like the requesters, you can either have it be specific people or specific user groups or both. And we are excited to say that we can also support external notifications. This is something separate that customers would have to set up an integrations gallery, but JumpGate does support external notifications to Slack and Teams channels. Depending on which customer you spoke to, is a 50-50 shot. So we covered both sides of the odds there.
All right, you just got some special points with our viewers right there. The ability to flag a request for access in Slack or Teams, chef's kiss, really good.
That's very cool. I want that everywhere, right? I want to get pinged on Slack anytime I need to know something.
I think the only specific feedback from customers was don't give us any more emails. So we listened. To continue us through this demo, at least, I will remove the approval needed for this part, and I will hit us to our final place. So this is the review. You can make sure that you've selected the correct name, descriptions, people who are impacted, and endpoints. Once you are satisfied with the access policy you've created, we hit create for it to submit through. But now here's one thing to call out. How does JumpGate evaluate access policies? We have some customers who have multiple access policies for every single ecosystem, let's call them, you could say. So how do we make sense of all of them? We wanted to make this simple and a similar approach to how the evaluation within our internal tool has been ongoing for the last couple of years. If you're a Tanium JumpGate operator and you need to fix your policies, you're going to hit the prioritize option here. This changes the screen. So the highest priority is access policy will be the one that gets evaluated. So the more important, the higher you put them. JumpGate evaluates from a top-down perspective as the most important ones are at the top. The very first access policy that it hits that is applicable to the access request scenario is the one that it will walk through. I'll save this changes for now, and I'll do one quick high-level explanation. For the Tech Talk demo, this here I gave myself auto approval through any computer group computer name that has win in it. If this second policy below it was the same exact thing, but it required approval, it would never get hit because I've prioritized the highest one at the top. So that's how access policies work within JumpGate. Hopefully simple and simple enough for customers to be able to understand how can I organize this to fit what's the most important rules that we need to hit first.
And so what does that approval process look like?
So when you create that access policy and you actually do set it to need an approval, whoever that approver or user group that's the approval are, they get notified. So here on my module homepage, there's pending jump approvals. These have been set over the last couple of days. These are waiting for me to approve them for them, as I was set to one of the approvers. You can either approve and they will get notified that their request has been approved, or you can hit reject and this would remove any sort of opportunity that user would have into accessing that endpoint. These approvals here also go to guide notifications if you are someone that needs to act upon it. And it will also get sent to an external notification if that has been set up by the Tanium jump gate operator. So
I
that
just
is
have to say, I've got an earworm playing in my head now. Jump from the 80s. It's like whoever named this gets special points. Jump Gate. It's so close to Stargate. I mean, you have so many nerd points here. You got Jump playing in my head now from the 80s with that classic synth. So this is just winning extra points on top of the approvals, right? Maybe it could play the song when you hit approve or something. That would just be fantastic.
that has been talked about as an opening song to any Verge main stage announcement on Jumpgate. With the access policies, how the approvals work, now, if you guys are open to it, I can test out an access request so that you guys can see how the sessions work.
Please, we would love that.
Awesome. All right. So let me go ahead and search for an endpoint that I want to jump to. At the moment, I will just submit demo purposes. So this is where a user would have to submit their justification. Some customers require ticket numbers, etc. This here is very much open to what the customer would need. And I'm going to submit that. This will take me through this page. This is our request details page. A lot of information here. So let me just take one quick moment to walk us through what is everything that is on my screen. For the request details from a user perspective, so I'm a support engineer, I need to get in and debug something. The very first thing we walk through is the status. It's first finding which access policy would this fall under, because if there isn't any, I will never get that approval. But we found that down here it says, it was approved, it was auto approved, the request details, who, what access type, when it was created, all these fun session details, you could say, that a lot of people, IT managers, forensics purposes, etc., we capture all of that. You even have the justification for it, and then the endpoint details. But the session recordings down here, that's empty at the moment, and we'll get to that fun stuff. But this is really just a quick high-level page of what did I just ask to do and why and for what, so that the right folks at the company, should they ever need to audit and review, JumpGates capture this for them. So now that we've gone over the request details, this is where the jump song would come into play. So now I am jumping into my endpoint. There
That's
we
perfect.
go.
All right, wow, I mean,
That was so fast.
I used to teach PowerShell at Microsoft, and that's why I left Microsoft to come to Tanium, because I said I could never do this with PowerShell at scale the way Tanium does it. And now you're giving me a remote PowerShell console to any machine in the place. That that just blew my mind. You could do like ls, right? Or get dash child item, right? That's the same thing. No spaces. Yeah, we're gonna have to teach you some PowerShell.
Yeah, honestly, it's
Yeah.
been a minute. Oh,
Get dash child item.
that actually is a great pause right there. I did a little bit of that on purpose. So let me show you guys something that we do. So
Okay.
we are going to close this jump. Down here at the bottom, this will be updated as if I jump back in. And now it's reestablishing that connection. Here I am again. Let me go into it. Down here, we now have the session recording. So what just happened is, as a user, I asked for access into this endpoint. This access will stay open until it hits the expiration configuration. So an admin comes in to set up JumpGate. They set the max time allowed per session, max idle time. So after 15 minutes of not typing anything, you get kicked out. But you can open and close sessions for every one request. So the request is me actually asking for permission and somebody saying yes. Once that yes is given to me, it stays live, you could say, and I can close it and go back into as many times as the configuration allows. every time I open up a new jump, it's technically a new session. And all of that information is kept individually to help make things easier for audits to help find what did they do at what point in time and how did they separate it. And when you go to export the session data, it actually captures all bytes at the moment. We've gotten feedback on, hey, I think you guys give us maybe a little bit too much information. Let's make this a little bit more readable. But it captures everything that I put in, all the bytes flowing through the connection. So even that get dash that was incorrect, that will all be in the audit file. And every time you close and open, the session recordings will just get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it'll list down so that everything that's always done can be traced back and organized. Admins don't even need to think about this.
My
Man, I
goodness.
I absolutely love that. I've been on both sides of this. I started my career at a help desk, and I can already see how this would have been incredibly useful in our day-to-day operations. But not only that, I've been on the cyber engineer side where I would have to get into stuff, and I would have to keep a historical track of everything I did myself. And that's, it's like forgetting to hit the record button, right? Like you miss one step, and all of a sudden, all your work is not as helpful anymore.
All
Yeah,
the info.
this has got so many things firing in my head right now because I used to teach PowerShell security and logging and auditing and all that stuff. And now you've got this at your fingertips for your sessions. So, my next question, I don't know, I'm learning this myself as we're watching this. Do we have a way to search across the transcripts of these sessions to see like if somebody ran a specific command?
Not today, but that is something that actually leads into a different view. So, one of the things that we are looking to have customers give into their feedback from an admin perspective is actually a lot of what you're saying in that question. Can you search across things to find that information? What was run? Who did what endpoint? And that brings us to our JumpGate activity page. This is the page where we want to have our customers start utilizing JumpGate and tell us what information is important to you so that we can surface this up and make this easier for you to go through. So at the moment, from an admin perspective, what you're able to see in the activity view is the number of requests, if they were auto approved or not, and then every single activity below. So you can click into every session that was approved. Maybe it's still waiting, it didn't work, it was rejected, and that they've closed themselves or that it expired. You have all that information listed here. And you can click into every details here as well. So it's not just a fun little list, but you can actually click into those sessions and see their details. So while we don't have the cross capability today to search for it, that is something that we do want customers' inputs. Please tell us, what do you want to search across? What information do you want surfaced in that area? Like, what statistics are important to you? So great question. Not something we don't have today, but something we're hoping customers will help us understand more clearly what do they need exactly delivered from JumpGate.
Yeah,
This
that's already firing some other things in my head, like that we could develop in the future. Like if a user did an execution or a bypass execution policy type of thing, like have it, you know, show up in bold or whatever. You know what I mean?
so Nat, this is actively blowing my mind as I'm watching this. It's the first time I've seen this. And I know that not everybody's a fan of PowerShell like I am. So, what are the other shell experiences that are shipping at first release?
So for first release, we're very much focused within that CLI interaction. So the team did want to keep it as native as possible. So we are supporting both PowerShell and Bash. So those are the two that JumpGate will come out of the box with a lot more in the works, especially with customer feedback.
So if it's Bash, like an SSH style connection,
Yes.
and because all right, nerd moment here. PowerShell remoting uses WinRM port 5985. SSH is I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to turn in my nerd card. What port's SSH, Alex?
I think it's 22 or 23.
I was thinking
I don't know.
22. Yeah, I was thinking 22. Anyway, I just didn't. All right. So we're not really using those ports though, are we here? Nat, are we using like the Tanium ports in a remote like direct endpoint connect session, or are we actually using those native protocols for WinRM and SSH?
You guys I saw the connection you got there. No, we are definitely using the existing Tanium agent connections actually. So we're not opening up anything new within our customers' environments, no new
Mm-hmm.
ports, no firewall, no whitelisting, no new infrastructure. If the Tanium agent is there within the endpoint, that is actually what we're leveraging for the CX connection. And that is how we're able to provide this remote access into endpoints for our customers to leverage.
I think I just heard somebody stand up and shout hallelujah. I don't have to manage SSH keys anymore. Like this is crazy. I I can only imagine, the reaction to people when they see this for the first time because it's yeah, I'm having a real nerd moment here.
It's
Uh
actually crazy because even as far back as when I first started at Tanium, like they kind of let me play around with it for my interview process, and I'm like, what do you mean I can't pull up a CLI on an endpoint? Like, so this is so cool.
We are
yeah.
definitely also working with a lot of folks within the console. So, single endpoint view, you can jump to an endpoint there. Investigates also another area customers have wanted. So, we're definitely finding these places within the platform that customers have asked for. Oh, it would make my life easier if you guys could just give me that direct access and that viewpoint. So, we are working to make sure we're covering those. So, if you're watching this and we still haven't covered an area, let the right folks know. Jumpgate will have you covered.
All right. So next, then I have to ask. We have a lot of customers who really like our ScreenMeet integration. This today sounds like a CLI version, but it has the auditing that you wouldn't have. Is there any way that ScreenMeet would get rolled in here at some point?
Absolutely. So ScreenMeet is one of Tanium's partnerships, and we're very much excited to support that within the JumpGate world. The way that we are looking to leverage that is actually to make that, you could call it a premium experience, to actually have ScreenMeet be a jump target. So let's say you're a help desk engineer and you need to be able to share the screen with somebody else and have file transfers and have the chat capabilities within their sessions that today you don't see in JumpGate as we just walked through it, but ScreenMeet has that offerings. So you would be able to ask for a request to a ScreenMeet session. Once that is approved, you would get the capabilities of ScreenMeet while the auditing of JumpGate. So that is how we are planning to leverage that partnership to still help make sure that customers get that offering for that type of use case while still getting the audit side of the house as well that JumpGate offers.
Wow. So normally I ask about configuration steps. So, but this sounds super simple. Like as a Tanium administrator, I've got a cloud subscription. It just shows up this new feature in my instance. I'm guessing there's maybe some client tooling that'll get rolled out. But do I have to actually configure anything to make this work, or does it just work?
So if you are a Tanium admin, when we GA in your environment, this is almost as easy as turning on a light switch. It will be here. You can ask for a request into any endpoint that falls under your management rights. The biggest configuration will just be who do you want to use JumpGate and which roles will they need. We've tried to keep this very specific to help with our customers' needs. So we have 3 roles today that they would need to assign out. We do have one that is JumpGate Auditor. That was a surprisingly popular ask. So if you are someone that just needs to get to the console to see the activity, that is the type of role that would be assigned to you. You can't configure, can't edit, can't create sessions. You can only view the activity. The second one, which we've talked about, JumpGate operator or admin. This is someone that, similar to what we've showcased here today, you come into JumpGate, you set it up with the access policies. We also do have, JumpGate configurations or settings, you could say. These are simple in a way that they will not stop you from jumping, but will help make the experience a little bit more suitable to your business needs. How long do you want requests to stay open until they get closed if nobody approves? How long you want people to be able to have their session open if they're not typing? How long you want each session time to go? Maybe the work shouldn't be more than an hour, so I'm not going to give you more than an hour. And then lastly, all this data that we're capturing, how long do you want this saved for? Anywhere from 30 days to 1 year. So that is what the operator would be in charge of and what they would do. They would be the ones that initially okay, JumpGate has the correct rules for our business. We are good to go. Then the last role that we have is just the JumpGate user. This is our core user, and this is somebody that would always be requesting access to things. That is what that main permission is. So if you're a Tanium admin and this turns on in your environment, I think the biggest lift will just be deciding what users you want using JumpGate and which roles do they need to have. Everything else, we try to leverage the RBAC that already exists in the console today to not have customers reset up their environment, but use what has already been set up.
Man, it sounds like you guys have nearly thought of everything. But I gotta ask for my friends from the past, on-prem users. Is this going to be available on-prem as well?
The plan is yes, but not at GA. So unfortunately, this little gold nugget here will just be reserved for cloud customers at GA. But we do know that we have customers not just on-prem, but also within the US, within the Gov spaces as well. We have you guys all in mind. We've gotten your feedback and your asks, and we are definitely working through them. So today, just customers on cloud. So if anything, hey, maybe it's time to move to the cloud.
So another question I have to ask. So solutions like this have been around for years, and typically they can get really gnarly really fast with all the different permutations of users and computers and times, and it can get really mind-blowing. And classically the guidance has always been, well, just turn it on in audit mode, see what people are doing before you actually, tighten the screws on it, so to speak. So while it would be kind of scary to just give like everybody access to everything, but I'm just trying to figure out, so the manageability of this, governance, definitely, who's going to get access to it. What have you, do you have any best practices or learnings from customers trials so far about like how to really manage this in the practical daily world?
So, we do have a user guide that will be coming out with the product itself. All customers will get that notice, very similar to the notice here. That actually will walk through a lot of different parts of the process of what access policies mean, why these default policies come, how would you edit the defaults. We have anything on there from even making a note that while these sessions, you can create these sessions through JumpGate, there still might be moments where the network for some reason disconnects. So here's some suggestions on how to keep those sessions intact, because if it drops, then you lose whatever local variables you had set up, for example. So there is still some just normal IT world variables that we are still impacted with, just like everybody else. But we have noted as much as we could in our user guide so that the first day our customers sit down to go to use JumpGate, we have tried to put as much information as possible in their hands within our user guide. And we want to make sure that if maybe you're watching this today, we missed something, please reach out. We did adjust the user guide with the feedback we received during private preview. So a lot of what we do is iterations through what have customers told us work and doesn't work, and let's make that change now.
Well, Nat, this has been, I mean, I tell you, this is fun here for a second because Alex and I'm watching his face and it's like, we're both having these jaw dropping moments. And this has happened on a few shows recently with these new releases that are coming out, just expanding I mean, well beyond Tanium's core value, right? Of adding all these new features. It's just amazing. Anything else? I'm watching the time here. Anything else before we wrap up?
Not that I can think of. I'm excited for our customers to try this out, how it works in their environment, and to continue this along for the journey. Right now, it feels like we're giving a little bit of an appetizer feel to what JumpGate is truly capable of. So I'm excited to have customers try out this much, start to love it, and then completely be swept off their feet when we release its full capabilities. So I'm excited to have this in customer hands, and thank you guys for taking the time to also talk about it here.
Nat, thank you so much for joining us today. As Ashley said, like it's been a few shows in a row now where my mind's been completely blown, and I keep thinking, man, if I had this a few years ago, like my life could have taken a totally different trajectory, right? Because this would have made my life so much easier at the time. How do you feel, Ashley?
Alex, wow. I'm just thinking for our viewers at home, like, all right, did you catch that last little bit that she just said? Like, we're just getting this out the door with minimal capabilities just to get that feedback. But she said they've got a lot more planned. We're not allowed to talk about it. I don't even know what's on the roadmap for all this stuff yet. But I mean, just this is absolutely amazing. So keep watching. If we put the little like and subscribe on at the beginning of the show each time. But seriously, subscribe to this so that you can get the first to be alerted when we have the next release episode showing you the next improvements coming out of JumpGate. So take us home, Alex.
A reminder for the folks at home, remember down below we have knowledge-based articles, our docs page, other relevant hyperlinks, and thank you so much for joining us today. Until next time.
Go Tanium.